Welcome to the Positively West Virginia podcast. I'm Nick, sitting in for Jim Matuga, and today we're coming to you from the 2026 Bridging Innovation Week conference here in Morgantown. This event brings together founders, leaders, and organizations from across the state who are all playing a role in shaping West Virginia's entrepreneurial ecosystem. Throughout the day, we're sitting down with a series of voices from that ecosystem to talk about what they're building, how things are evolving, and where they see real opportunity ahead. Right now, we're joined by our next guest, Ariana Shives, Executive Director of Tech Connect West Virginia. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
Positively West Virginia. Positively West Virginia.
Positively West Virginia is powered by Breezeline high-speed fiber internet and sponsored by Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, Humble Influence, and the West Virginia Lottery. With the help of these sponsors, we're able to share the positive business stories of West Virginians, including the one from today's episode.
I mentioned before the podcast started, I'll mention it again just for some framing. This is a shorter interview than we typically do. I'm going to ask you some very pointed questions, but central to the heart of PWV is getting to hear about someone's story.
Okay.
So Jim, he loves asking, what's your 30-second pitch? This is a little different from that, so I'm going to ask it slightly different. Could you give us the quick version of your story? Basically, how did you get here to this moment?
Ooh, that's a good question. The 30-second version of my story is I met a guy who dragged me to West Virginia, kind of kicking and screaming, 4 years ago, where at the time I was an entrepreneur. I had started my own business, which turned into a digital marketing agency. I started a couple more companies and then got involved with the national organization Right to Start, which is where I learned what ecosystem building was and fell in love with that.
Sure.
Had a couple of roles in the ecosystem building space and eventually made my way to Tech Connect, where I discovered that I love helping other people start companies.
Wow, that's really amazing. So where does Tech Connect plug into the ecosystem? So we're here, we're celebrating kind of what the ecosystem does on a daily basis. Where do you fit into that ecosystem? And then why would you say that it matters? Maybe for Tech Connect, but also the strengths you bring to the ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a great question. So thinking about where Tech Connect fits, if you think of the entrepreneurship ecosystem as a whole as kind of an umbrella, Tech Connect has one vertical underneath that umbrella. We are the tech support and the innovation support piece of that, and we hit a little bit, if you think about a T, right?
Yeah.
They're the top of the T. We hit one of those verticals coming down. And so we particularly help tech entrepreneurs, innovative companies, people who are building anything related to tech, which in 2026 is really broad and can be just about anybody. It matters because there's not that there's not a lot of tech and innovation in West Virginia, but it's still fairly new. It's something we don't talk about a lot, and it's something there aren't a lot of resources for.
Yeah.
That said, there are some really incredible, really smart people here building really, really cool things, and they need support in order to do that. And so we both help to form community among those people. We help to bring them together, let them learn from each other, let them know that they're not building in a silo, they're not building alone, as well as help to connect them to resources across the state.
Yeah, so I would say as a layman, tech and West Virginia are not two things that typically find their way into a sentence together. I think just alluding to that, obviously the expertise that is coming out of West Virginia, what does the future of tech talent in West Virginia look like?
Absolutely. So the easy answer to what tech talent in West Virginia looks like is that compared to peer states, West Virginia confers the highest number of STEM degrees. However, we have the fewest number of jobs available for them. So we're moving the right direction in some ways, right?
Yeah.
We have more and more tech talent available. There are more and more resources available, more and more smart people coming into and coming out of West Virginia. As we continue to develop an entrepreneurial pipeline, new businesses are actually the largest creator of new jobs in the United States. The more that we can get new tech companies to come, the more that we can get new tech companies to build here and to create jobs here, the more of those West Virginians and those really smart West Virginians getting STEM degrees from our universities we can keep here.
How do you do that? Because my next question was, how do you keep people here? The answer, it seems to be, you need to make a job for them.
Yeah.
How do we do that? How are you doing that? Are we doing that? Yeah, all the above.
Great question. All great questions. Yes. So I think the number one way to keep people here is to give them high paying jobs, right? One of the ways that we've started to tackle that is we've partnered with Generation West Virginia to create the state's first tech job board. So we specifically post tech jobs. Our average salary is over $100,000. And we have placed, at last count, 46 people in jobs.
Wow.
Thank you. And that's at about $4.5 million in salary, which not only comes to great salary, but also that money's being spent in West Virginia. So that's kind of the first step to keeping people here. In order to keep that job board going, like you said, we need to create jobs that go on that. I'm a firm believer that entrepreneurship is the right way to do that. If a single person starts as an entrepreneur, they can create a job for themselves, and then every other person who they're able to hire gets a job. That person gets to decide whether they hire overseas talent for 20% the cost, or they hire someone in West Virginia.
Right.
Our hope is that we'll be able to continue to develop great talent who can stay here and who can work for those companies.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So in your position, I imagine you have to have one eye on the local level, one eye on the national landscape. So from a national lens, what is West Virginia getting right in terms of entrepreneurialism within the state, and then more specifically in tech? And then where do we still need to catch up, right?
Yeah.
Where are we a little different from our competitors, and wanting to play ball, I guess, with the ways that they're playing ball?
Yeah, absolutely. Great questions. I would say that West Virginia, the biggest thing and the first thing that comes to mind for what West Virginia does right is our community. Any entrepreneur who shows up, there are currently a lot of doors to get into the ecosystem, right? We have a ton of great partners, a ton of great resource providers. Any door that you walk in, you are going to meet someone who's so excited to help you. That person is going to make more and more connections for you, and every single one of those people is going to be so excited to help you. I think it's really rare. I had the opportunity to go and speak at a conference in San Francisco about my work, and I mentioned that in West Virginia, you never cold pitch an investor. And the room was like silent. Couldn't believe that. And that was such a fun moment for me to think about, especially my first experiences in entrepreneurship were in Los Angeles, where cold pitching is all there is. I co-founded a company with a friend who lived in New York City. We primarily cold pitched. Now I get to be in a state where there are people who are so excited to work with entrepreneurs and to help them beyond just an infusion of cash that we get to say that. And I think that is something that West Virginia does so right, and that we will continue to do so right. And that's why our entrepreneurs feel supported and feel able to take on big challenges, even if we as a state are behind in many aspects.
Yeah, all day today, the answer to that question in one form or another has been the people.
Yeah.
The people of West Virginia make West Virginia a great place to live and to work and to invest. And yeah, I'm from West Virginia, so it's always good for me to hear that.
Yeah.
I've always had a high opinion of West Virginians. And so even in this space, although I never thought that I would be interviewing you to talk about entrepreneurialism in West Virginia, it is sort of inspiring to know that West Virginians are helping each other kind of thrive.
It's incredible. And as a transplant who, not that I didn't have a high opinion of West Virginia, I think I had a very neutral opinion of West Virginia. Sure. It wasn't a place I really necessarily ever thought about. So as someone who came here and immediately wanted to leave, and now has had a chance to become part of that community and to develop that community for myself, and both in my everyday life and in my work, it's really tremendous. And it really, I just bought a house. I'm not going anywhere.
Amazing.
I love it so much. And that really is why.
Really, my last kind of prepared question for you, I reserve the right to throw you a curveball after you answer, but sort of fast forward a few years into the future, if things go right, it seems like there's a lot of energy at this event. There's a lot of energy behind the ecosystem. Things are always changing. If things go right, what does this ecosystem actually look like?
My dream is that, I think I look at this from a founder perspective. My dream is that a founder in West Virginia, somebody with an idea, feels like it is reasonably easy to get started here. They can look at the ecosystem, be aware that it exists, be aware that it has resources, and say, you know what, I do have an idea and I'm going to go for it because I know that I'll be supported. Regardless of how that happens, it will change over time. It will continue to develop. New organizations will form. I don't know what that looks like from an infrastructure standpoint, but my dream is that anybody who decides they want to start a business can say, I know I can do that.
Yeah. It's the hardest step is always the first step. So it's good knowing that the first step, the advice is always just do something, do anything. It's important to know that if that person is thinking about doing something, they will be supported.
Absolutely.
From the very beginning.
Yes.
And hopefully to the end as well. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about your organization, about the ecosystem at large? Any new initiatives that you're thinking about? The floor is yours.
Oh, that's such a good question. So I've been with Tech Connect for about 1.5 years, and we have had the opportunity to listen to and learn from a lot of entrepreneurs in the tech space. What we have been pleasantly surprised by is that there are a lot of resources for kind of what we call the top of the funnel, for those people who have a brand new idea, who are just getting started, who need a quick connection to somebody else. And so we're actually starting to pivot into a space where we can help entrepreneurs who they already have the first iteration of their product done. They already have an interested customer. Maybe they've been through an accelerator. They've kind of been past that top of the funnel stage and now need help either from mentors, talent, or pilot customers in West Virginia. And so we're starting to have this opportunity to connect all three of those.
Okay.
Ideally to connect paid talent, paid mentorship, and paid pilot customers to help those tech companies. To me, that is particularly impactful because when I took this job, I never imagined that we would have enough companies at that stage to need those resources. And it tells me that we are so much further along in our entrepreneurship cycle than I initially thought. So it's been really fun to be able to pivot in that direction and to see that there's so much more happening here than I think anybody realizes. Certainly from outside the state, but even from within the state. There's so much more happening here and people are building such great things.
Yeah, I think that you're right. And it is inspiring to all of us, whether or not we're entrepreneurs or not. I love that the ecosystem calls itself an ecosystem because it really is one big ecosystem of people who interact with one another and encourage each other and support one another with goods and services and the like. And so thank you for your interview and you did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We'd like to thank our partners, Humble Influence, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, Highmark, West Virginia, the West Virginia Lottery, Interaction Media, and our studio sponsor Breezeline for helping to share these positive stories. If you'd like to become a sponsor of the Positively West Virginia podcast, visit positivelywv.com/sponsor.